We do not have trustworthy people in Congress, especially on the left side of the aisle. If you tell Crockett and Tlaib and Omar and Presley and even Thomas Massie and people in our party like this at this particular point, you might as well put the Ayatollah on the phone as well.
Two exceedingly dangerous things are happening right now in the Republican Party, and you have to know about them. One, they are posturing this preemptive attack on Iran, this attack that has zero intelligence behind it that we learned from Marco Rubio yesterday. It wasn't predicated upon any real world knowledge that Iran was trying to weaponize their nuclear program. We learned that. We know that. But the dangerous things come in the way of, one, violating the Constitution. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution gives Congress the sole authority to declare war. And if you're one of those people that say, oh, this isn't declaring war, what do you think dropping dozens of bombs, a dozen, I believe, maybe 15 bunker buster, 30,000 pound bombs on targets in Iran? If that's not war, I don't think you have a fulsome understanding of what war and conflict is. That's not the majority of my audience, though. The other thing is, well, the War Powers Resolution 2. That's 1973. I think I'll talk about that at the end here. But the two things that are happening are them saying Donald Trump has full authority to absolutely violate the Constitution. Congress doesn't need to know. It's his role to play as commander-in-chief. And that is just anti-constitutional. That is not the way things were set up. There is a divide. There is a barrier. There is a checks and balance system that people talk about so often that they don't really drill down on what it means. Okay, that's the one. The other thing is that Republicans are painting Democrats as traitors to the country. As, of course, Donald Trump didn't tell the Democrats. They would have gotten on the phone with the Ayatollahs and told them what was coming. Treason, literal treason, to work against a military operation, endangering the lives of American service members. That's what they're accusing Democrats of to justify Donald Trump's violating the Constitution. That's not new, not surprising, but a shocking turn of events from multiple members. I think I'll start with J.D. Vance, Vice President of the United States of America, completely privy to the intelligence underlying this attack, completely privy to the sensitive information surrounding the operation, right? He was asked yesterday on the Sunday shows about this. And his answer is just remarkable when he says, well, the difference is all other presidents were dumb and Donald Trump is a brilliant mastermind of heightened proportions the world has never seen before. Like an obsequious lapdog. He says some other shit too, but get a load of this from the Vice President, J.D. Vance.
Congressman Thomas Massie saying this was unconstitutional. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying it's grounds for impeachment, saying the president should have gotten congressional approval first. What do you say to members of Congress who say it was unconstitutional for the president to act unilaterally?
Well, I'd say two things, Kristen, and this is very important. First of all, the president has clear authority to act to prevent the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, and the worst weapon of mass destruction of them all is nuclear. The idea that this was outside of presidential authority, I think any real serious legal person would tell you that's not true. And the second thing is, Kristen, I certainly empathize with Americans who are exhausted after 25 years of foreign entanglements in the Middle East. I understand the concern, but the difference is that back then we had dumb presidents, and now we have a president who actually knows how to accomplish America's national security objectives. So this is not going to be some long, drawn-out thing. We've got in, we've done the job of setting their nuclear program back. We're going to now work to permanently dismantle that nuclear program over the coming years, and that is what the president has set out to do. Simple principle.
Simple principle. Even the simplest of principles, when you have Donald Trump involved, means it's very complex. And so, look, this on its face is just ridiculous. And I'm not even going to fully get into the dumb presidents thing. You know what? I think I will. So he's talking about foreign entanglements and presidents being dumb in the past. Look, we've been entangled in foreign entanglements going back to just after World War II, right? We had boots on the ground, not military boots, but CIA and intelligence officials on the ground in Vietnam in the 50s. So he's saying that Eisenhower was dumb, that John F. Kennedy was dumb, that Lyndon Johnson was dumb, that Nixon was dumb, a dumb guy. Even I don't think that could be said of Gerald Ford. He's got a bad reputation, but not dumb. Carter, not a dumb guy. Reagan, not a dumb guy. I mean, we're getting closer to the dumb guys in George W. Bush, but Donald Trump, for his vice president to assert he is the one smart man over the course of the last 70 years is rich, right? The other things about Donald Trump having clear authority, he does not. We're going to get to that with a little bit of a reading from the War Powers resolution of 1973 when Congress tried to curtail or remind the president of the United States at the time, Richard Nixon, that he did not have carte blanche. He did not have an open ticket to send troops wherever, whenever, without the consultation of Congress. This next one is Joni Ernst. This was before the attack. Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa, United States Senator Joni Ernst, a member of the body that has the clear authority from Congress to declare war, saying whatever Donald Trump says is the right thing to do. Well, this will be entirely up to the president. Whatever the call is that is made by the president, I will be supportive of. So apparently, Joni Ernst, such an obsequious lapdog that if Donald Trump had decided to nuke Iran, it would have been A-OK with her because Donald Trump can't be questioned. He's the dear leader and he knows all, even though he has zero military experience. He has the antithesis of military experience. He is a multi-time draft dodger. He thinks people who lost limbs or their lives in combat are losers and suckers. He denigrates people who were in Vietnamese POW camps for years, nearly 6 years, tortured, were not heroes because I like my heroes when they're not captured. But yeah, let's give him all the decision-making power and just give away your constitutionally mandated role as a co-equal branch of government and giving away your power to declare war to Donald Trump, Joni Ernst. Watch this.
President Trump will be back in the Situation Room this morning to discuss how the U.S. will respond to this conflict. But joining me now is the woman herself, Iowa Senator Joni Ernst, a member of the Senate Armed Services and Homeland Security Committees. Senator, thanks so much for your work on this. How would you like to see the U.S. respond?
Well, this will be entirely up to the president, Maria, but we do know that Iran poses a threat not only to Israel, but also to the United States of America. We see where they use proxy terrorist organizations all around the globe to target American citizens. Iran does have open calls for assassination on a number of American leaders, and this problem has got to end. We cannot allow them access to a nuclear weapon, which is what they have been developing. They have a very strong ballistic missile program, and it must stop. One way or another, it must stop. That is up to the President of the United States. Whatever that call is that is made by President Donald Trump, I will be supportive of. But he has made it very clear Iran will not have a nuclear weapon.
Yeah. There's more of that. I was going to play next Ronnie Jackson, who really does just call Democrats traitors and treasonous, people who would have sold out American troops for the sake of some political acrimony in politics. But I'm going to skip. I'm going to play that last. I'm going to play Ron Johnson, another senator. We'll keep it from the Senate and then we'll move to the House here. Ron Johnson effectively saying this, but without as much oomph Watch this.
Well, I don't know how anybody could have been surprised at this. I think President Trump certainly telegraphed it. He said he was going to make his decision in a couple of weeks. I certainly understand why President Trump would not share that information with the Democrats in Congress. And again, the operational security is just so crucial to protect our servicemen and women. I didn't need notice. I've been saying for over a week, it'll be the president's decision. I will support that decision because we cannot allow Iran, the largest state sponsor of terror, to become a nuclear power, and that's what they wanted to be.
You did need notice, Ron Johnson. You're a senator in the Congress. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution that you've sworn oath to, that you should have some basic understanding of, gives Congress the sole power to declare war. War cannot be declared by President of the United States, and there is no larger, more radical declaration of war than dropping tens of thousands of pounds of munitions on targets in a foreign country, in a sovereign nation. And the fact, why would he tell Democrats? Republicans have a fundamental lack of understanding of governance. Like, it's a partnership. It's a cooperation. It is conceding on points that you don't necessarily think need concessions because of the fact that it's a compromise. Running a government of a diverse people with diverse viewpoints and diverse interests. It is working together. Donald Trump has an obligation to tell Democrats in Congress, just as he has an obligation to tell Republicans, to tell all of them. It got worse. Leave it to Ronnie Jackson, served in the military, but it was in a medical capacity. You know, he's a physician. Good Lord. Here he is just all but calling Democrats traitors who would have sold out American troops and endangered the national security posture of the country only to hurt Donald Trump.
Well, the OPSEC was incredible. I mean, it was really key that we had operational security in order to pull this off. We've been talking about that. I've heard some of your colleagues talking about that today as well. That was key in what happened. And you made the comment earlier about, notifying Congress beforehand. That cannot happen in this situation. We do not have trustworthy people in Congress, especially on the left side of the aisle. If you tell Crockett and Tlaib and Omar and Presley and even Thomas Massie and people in our party like this at this particular point, you might as well put the Ayatollah on the phone as well. We cannot afford to do that. This our operational security is reliant on the secrecy that surrounds it, and that's what happened. And the president had no obligation to inform Congress beforehand, anyways. And I'm glad he did not.
He's saying that even Thomas Massie, Republican from Kentucky, I believe, would have gotten on the phone with the Ayatollahs to tell them of the impending military strike. There will be no punishment for Ronnie Jackson here. There will be no reprimand. This is sick stuff, that we have people who are not trustworthy in the Congress. Citizens of the United States who are duly elected through a democratic process to represent a constituency. How can those people represent that constituency if they're left in the dark about things of this level of importance? Not only does Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution give Donald Trump no war powers relative to declaring war. I screwed up what I was going to say. We'll just make it that, right? It gives Congress full authority, only authority, right? In 1973, the War Powers Resolution was passed by that Congress, reminding Richard Nixon. Is what it says. It looks like this. I'll put a link to it below. It is the purpose of this joint resolution to fulfill the intent of the framers of the Constitution of the United States and ensure that the collective judgment of both the Congress and the President will apply to the introduction of the United States Armed Forces into hostilities or into situations where imminent involvement in hostilities is clearly indicated by circumstances, and to the continued use of such forces in hostilities or in such situations. Blah, 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 goes on. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, it is specifically provided that the Congress shall have the power to make all laws necessary and proper for the carrying into execution not only its own powers, but also all other powers vested by the Constitution in the government of the United States, right? And then down here in the consultation, they say this: the president, in every possible instance, shall consult with Congress before introducing United States armed forces into hostilities or into situations where imminent involvement in hostilities is clearly indicated by the circumstances. And after every such introduction, shall consult regularly with the Congress until the United States armed forces are no longer engaged in hostilities or have been removed from such situations. This is a joint resolution. This is law. A reminder to a president of exactly what the constitutional constraints on a president's power are. Donald Trump doesn't care. Republicans don't care. The Constitution that they pull out of their little pockets and wave around like they care about it, there are very few Republicans who do. Thomas Massie, although he has a perverse understanding, a misunderstanding of much of the contents of this document, there are a few things that are just so clear that he's right about. Thomas Massie is like your libertarian-leaning rabble-rouser in Congress, a guy who gives Republican Party fits because he does believe in certain tenets. This is impeachable, and we should seek that, but we need the midterms to go our way first. We need the Senate and the House. That way, we can vote to impeach Donald Trump, vote on impeach Donald Trump, send the trial to the Senate, and hopefully, if we have a large enough majority in the Senate, remove Donald Trump from office and forbid him from ever holding office again, which should have been done the first time he was impeached. And then when that failed, it should have happened the second time after the insurrection against the country. Anyway, what do you think? I invite you to this conversation. This is dangerous stuff. The road we're heading down with these Republicans just openly calling members of the opposite party, the opposition party, traitors and treasonous who will endanger the lives of troops. You can comment below. I would appreciate that very much. That'll juice up the algorithm and share this content with new possible subscribers and viewers. I would appreciate that. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I'll see you next time. I appreciate you very much. Love your thoughts. Follow me on social media @Dollemore. Be genuine. Take care of one another.